Thanks for joining us. I'm Penny Allman-Payne, Green spokesperson for Social and Government Services, and I'm joined by Senator Barbara Pocock, our spokesperson for Private Sector, and Isabel Mudford, the Greens candidate for Canberra. The privatised employment services system in this country is broken. We have a for-profit system that... I'm going to start again. Sorry, it's been a long morning. The privatised employment system in this country is costly, it's inefficient, and it's cruel. It's completely counterproductive in that it in fact makes it harder for people to find work, whilst enriching the for-profit providers who often seem to show a callous indifference for the people that they're expected to support. Mutual obligations is cruel and it's dysfunctional. We've seen multiple technological issues that have actually made it virtually inoperable, and it's a system where we've seen recent information that brings its legality into question. Labor seems to just have sat on its hands in this period of government rather than overhaul a system that its own select committee said was completely dysfunctional and inoperable. And in fact, Labor backbenchers as well have been calling on the government to overhaul a system that is inefficient and cruel. The Greens have a plan to change this because it doesn't have to be this way. The Greens have a plan to eliminate for-profit job service providers. We have a plan to bring back the Commonwealth Employment Services, to bring it back into public hands. And we also have a plan to completely abolish mutual obligations. In addition, we also are announcing a plan to bring on more Centrelink employees so that we can reduce the call wait times for people on welfare and social security to under 5 minutes. As I said, the Labor government's own select committee has found that the employment services system in this country, the privatised for-profit employment services system in this country, is completely broken and dysfunctional. At this election, the Greens are fighting to keep out Peter Dutton and to push a Labor minority government to bring employment services back into Commonwealth hands and to actually have a social security system in this country that lifts up everyone. I'm going to hand over to Bob.
Thanks, Penny. All of our essential public services, like employment services, should be run within our public sector. The privatisation of employment services in our country has been a disaster. It's been a disaster for unemployed people who've had to jump through hoops to get the services they need. They've been required to take actions which have put profit into the pockets of private providers at the cost of the public sector. We need a strong public employment service that does the job for our Australian communities, and we need localised employment services that understand their community, understand those who need assistance, and provide the service efficiently. If Peter Dutton gets into government, he's very clear about what his government would mean for essential services like employment services. Peter Dutton promises to cut the public sector by 36,000 public servants. That will lengthen queues in employment services, undermine the quality employment services that Australians need, and result in inefficient, increased profit for his mates in the private sector and in consulting and employment services. We need to make sure we push Labor further and faster to build the public employment services that they know we need. They have run the inquiries which show privatised employment services do not work. They don't work for the unemployed. They do work for those who make a lot of money out of them, and they destroy and undermine the lives of unemployed people who need quality services that are localised and do the job properly. For a decent public sector into the future that provides the employment services we need these green policies that will make a difference. We need to keep Dutton out, and we need to push Labor further and faster on a decent public employment service.
Folks,
as the Greens candidate for the seat of Canberra, I know the important role that the public service plays in building an Australia that can care for everybody. By abolishing mutual obligations and bringing employment services back into public hands, we can build a bigger public service, a more robust public service, and a government that will care for everybody. Mutual obligations are unfair, they're cruel, and the privatisation of employment services has been a masterclass in the problems of privatisation. They are inefficient, they're ineffective, and they funnel public money into private hands. By bringing these services back into Commonwealth, back into the public service, which we know provided efficient services which found people meaningful employment, suitable employment that met their needs and met the needs of the community previously. We know these services are highly effective, have been highly effective in the past when they're run by the public service, and will continue to do so after the Greens are in the balance of power and bring this policy to fruition. Oh yeah, sure.
With the ACC election,
yes, yeah.
The Greens vote did go down a little in attendance. Do you feel that? How do you feel?
I feel incredibly confident actually heading into this election as the Greens candidate, because we know at the last election the seat turned into a two-party preferred contest between the Greens and the Labor Party. And we know from loads of door knocking that we've done in the local election and federally as well now, that Canberrans are disappointed with the lack of ambition they've seen in their local Labor member, and they're looking for a really strong alternative that is supportive of the public service and supportive of bringing ambition back to government. And the Greens will deliver that by being in balance of power with Labor after the election.
Maybe one for ACOS. Would you see this?
The Greens have been really clear throughout this entire term of Parliament and heading into this election that we want to see the income support rates for everyone lifted above the poverty line. This is not a replacement for that. This sits alongside our ongoing commitment to fight in a Labor minority government to raise the rate above the poverty line, but we also need to end a system that is punitive and cruel. This system does not help people into work. It does the complete opposite, and it is costly and ineffective. So the Greens want to see the abolition of mutual obligations. We want to see the restoration of a Commonwealth Employment Services, but we also want to see every person in this country on income support have a rate of income support that is above the poverty line. I'm not on. I'm not actually on today, but I know that there are lots of Greens. I think David Shoebridge is on today talking about foreign affairs and defence. I'm certainly looking forward to questioning the department and the government around social services and aged care later on this week, and very much also looking forward to grilling the department in relation to public education.
And I'm looking forward to talking to the Australian Public Service Commission about robo-debt, about the fact that no one has been held to account for the appalling chapter that we saw with robo-debt. 400,000 Australians hit with debts that were fictional, and a number of people not only damaged in their mental health but lost their lives. Also talking this evening to the Future Fund. Our money, billions of our money, we want to make sure it's going to the right places, not into gambling, not into fossil fuels, but into the things that build a good future for Australians. Oh, sorry.
Thanks very much, everyone.
Thank you.